Hey, everybody. Welcome to Paranormal Among Us. Welcome to Saturday night here on YouTube. It's going to be a great show tonight. I have Karl Forehand in the green room. We're going to talk about his book, The Hotel. A couple weeks ago, I had Carmen, Lauren, and Karl on. They were investigating the hotel. Right now, it is called the Cedar Bluff Lodge. And the city is escaping me for some reason. I can't think of where the city is. But Karl will be on here in just a few seconds to remind me of where it's at. Wow, that bugs me. I can't remember it. But anyway, before we get to Karl, I want to say a few things here. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate it. I have some great stuff coming up rest of this month and into April. And even into May, I have some really good stuff to share with you guys. And that brings me to May 18th. This is going to be put on by After Dark Paranormal and Blondes and Booze out at Ashmore Estates in Ashmore, Illinois, May 18th into the 19th. Guest speakers include Rob and Terry, or guests will include Rob and Terry. I don't know who's all speaking. Rob and Terry, Letitia Nunnelly, who is in the chat. Hi, Letitia. Say hi. Wave to everybody. Jessica Porter, our Potter, is going to be there. Rachel Marie, Josh Hurd, and some dork up there in the right-hand corner is going to be up there. I don't know how I got in. Yeah, I'm there. I'll be there. So it'll be fun. It'll be a great time. $85 per ticket. Price does include daytime speaker portion of the day, pizza dinner, and then an overnight ghost hunt. So go to take us through Bright under Blondes and Booze. It's going to be a great night, some fun ghost hunting and everything else, or just to come out and hang out. It'll be fun too. Apparently there's a fire pit out there too that would be fun to hang out and chit chat. Also, I have some let me get this up here. I have some merchandise available. Here is the design on the back of the t-shirt through there it is on the bottom there. Purple Penguin Crafts and Creation. Go on over there for some Paranormal Among Us merch. I really appreciate it. Good group of people over there, actually my cousins. So go on over there and some good stuff. She's got she showed me some bottle openers, magnets, and keychains too. So some great stuff. There's its own little section on the bottom of the page at Purple Penguins Crafts and Creations. I believe, oh, there we go. I believe that is all I needed to share with everybody. So everybody, please welcome Karl Forehand to the stage, author of The Hotel. Karl, thank you for joining us on this Saturday night.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Okay, so I blew the beginning. What city is that hotel in?
Yes, Rockport, 2 words.
Rockport.
You ever been on I-29? It's past St. Joe to the north on your way to Omaha. Right there where all the fireworks stands are. Yeah.
And you know, I completely blanked on it. And when Carmen and Lauren were telling me about it, I kept thinking, okay, Rockport, I can remember that because I used to live in Rockford, Illinois. So,
right.
But apparently I can't remember.
I got distracted by your long hair in that picture. Was that you? Was that you that I saw?
That was me. That was me. Yeah. Couple years ago, I let it grow out, let it grow for over about 2.5 years, and with the full intention of donating it. And I got a cut and donated it, and I've kept it short ever since. And you know, I tried growing it out, but you know, for some reason my hair just gets too poofy, and I just didn't like it, so I went back to this.
Can't have that.
Yeah, but you know, it was for a good cause, and I this was the first time I ever had really long hair, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I like it.
Thank you. So, Karl, now you live out in Rockport, correct?
Yeah, I suppose we've been here about 7 or 8 years. My daughter was in high school. We moved here and been here ever since. Yeah, I had a stroke a couple of years ago, so I'm disabled now. But you know, we live right in the town of Rockport, about 1,500 people. It's a small town.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Glad you're doing good. And my family's had history of stroke, so I certainly know what you're going through on that. Um,
Yeah.
but you weren't always an author, though. The going through
No.
with the stroke, yeah. Tell us about why you became an author, actually.
Yeah. I think one of the main reasons I did, it's about the time I turned 50 or so. It was kind of a midlife thing, but also going through a lot of religious deconstruction. I
Mhm.
was really into fundamentalism and found that kind of to be toxic, and had to deconstruct and untangle a lot of that theology and some of the stuff that went on there. So my best way to do that, I hated English in high school, but I did take a creative writing course where you
Mhm.
free wrote and just got everything out, and I enjoyed that. So when I just started writing, and eventually I became blogs and then books. So a lot of nonfiction work.
Yeah.
Um, but this book, has a little bit different story. It is a fiction book, but it's based on a true story. So, writing. I'm a shy guy. I'm a quiet guy. So,
Mhm.
um, except when I used to preach, that was a little bit different. But it just helps me get my thoughts out. It helps me. I say it helps me know what I think. And even in this book, which is a work of fiction, talking about a real story, there's a
Mhm.
lot of me in it. There's a
Okay.
lot of my healing and stuff in it, and so
Okay.
that's kind of how I started writing.
I have a copy of the book. I haven't finished it.
Hmm.
It's a very good book so far. I'm about 3/4 of the way done, um, and we'll get more to the book here in a minute. Um, but you were a deacon, correct? Is that right?
In the so the character in the book Joe
Yeah.
is his thing kind of parallels me, and he was a deacon. I was actually a pastor for 20 years,
Oh, okay,
so
that's right.
I
You said
really
that backstage.
deconstructed and got out of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me put a picture of the book up here. The book is entitled "The Hotel,"
Hmm.
based on the Op Hotel out in Rockport, Missouri. So you got that right that time.
Hmm.
Um, so first off, what made you write about that book? Write about that hotel?
Yeah. So I'd written a book in 2021 called Being, and it was about my healing journey. And I was looking for a place, where I might gather some people together, and let's talk about, the shit that you went through in your life. Is it all right to cuss on here? The
That's
stuff
fine.
you've gone through in your life,
That's fine.
and we were looking for a place to meet. And so I asked people who owned the hotel and what's going on with that and so on. Is there space in there? I knew someone was teaching karate in there, so I knew there was something there.
Hmm.
And but all of my friends said, "Yeah, I'll talk to Diana, but that's haunted, right? And there's tunnels under the street from Prohibition and so on." Um, so they're giving me all these stories ahead of time, and then so I was looking for a venue. I asked about it. My friends told me the stories. Then I met Diana, and I
Hmm.
said, "They say this is haunted here, or whatever whatever the right terminology is there." Um, And she said, "Oh, I know it's haunted." And she told me a couple of her stories. Then I kind of, the second time I went back to talk to her and look at the basement, she said she wouldn't go in the basement, but then finally went down in the basement. She told me stories about that. And that second time, while I was waiting for her, I was sitting in the lobby and just had one of the most unusual experiences I've ever had uh, in there. It was
Really?
almost like there's too much energy in there. I was getting flashbacks and from the past and things like that.
From
Um,
your past or from the hotel's past?
yeah, and it seemed like it was things that went on there. It was just um, like a busyness, kind of an energy from whatever was there. And I tried to recreate that in the book, that experience, and And it may not be exactly right, but that's, it was something that happened to me while I was there.
Hmm.
Then when I went down to the library to research it. I tried to talk to people in town. I talked to people that were 95 years old, to tell me about what it was like in the 20s and 30s, and
Yeah.
they were just young enough not to remember. They were kids at that time when it was
Right.
in its heyday in the 20s and 30s, and they couldn't quite remember, or they just went there to get ice cream or whatever in the restaurant. And
Hmm.
so it was really when I went to the library and did research, it was not what was there, but what wasn't there. There was um, George, the owner, and they called him Dode. He and his wife owned more property than probably anybody in town, and
Hmm.
yet there was more records of his father than of him. There's no
Hmm.
pictures of the inside of the hotel from all of that heyday. At one time, it was the place to go within 100 miles.
Right.
Um, and Daisy said, we entertained them all from Pretty Boy Floyd, to the U.S. president, and whoever came, we gave them a room.
Hmm.
Um, but very few pictures of the inside of the hotel. And so
Hmm.
that just got me curious, and I kind of went from there.
So, what I found really interesting about the book, and what little I've talked to you before about this, is that it seems to parallel the truth. I mean, you did a lot of research in the library. The character does a lot of research in the library. Um,
Hmm.
how did you? Is that was that difficult to intertwine? I guess.
Yeah, it was quite a deal. I mean, I created a character that kind of paralleled me, and he was
Yeah.
also researching the hotel. And we gave it a different name, and uh, Dode and Daisy became George and Elisa.
And
So
in the book, you called it the Popper Hotel,
the
right? Okay.
Popper, yeah, instead of the
Okay.
Hotel Op, it was the
Right.
Popper Hotel.
Hmm.
So all the names were changed. Crazy Philip was made up, but there is a
Hmm.
there was a court case with a guy named O'Shea and George Opp. They kind of got in a little scuffle, uh,
Hmm.
and it went to the Missouri Supreme Court. He was trying to he if you notice on the picture of the book, it's a picture of 1930s or 1940s automobiles, and they all have Nebraska license plates, which is about a half hour from here.
Yeah, we
And
can't see the
this
plates on
court
there.
case, yeah, and uh, it'll really zoom out. But
Yeah.
anyway, the battle, the thing that they were arguing over was, a lumberyard bill, because George was always kind of adding rooms onto the hotel and renovating it and so on, all through that time, the 30s and 40s, even into the 50s. But these cars that were in front of there were all from Nebraska. Um, and during the scuffle, he's the reason they got in the scuffle. He was writing down license plates numbers of the hotel guests, so he
Hmm.
could call the liquor board in Nebraska uh, and tell them about the bootlegging that was supposedly going on there. So that was a real court case, and I tried to, uh, kind of tie in how I imagine it played out in the street that
Hmm.
day, but also to tie it back into a character that's a real character from real life. When George and some guy from Nebraska got in a fight that was, like a staged boxing match, kind of wrestling match. That was a real fact, but I just interpreted the way I wanted to, and the way it fit with the story. So those two characters came back together later in the book in a different kind of confrontation. I don't want to give away too much,
Yeah.
but that was my approach, because I don't know if you've ever been in a building in an old town. Like in my
Oh yeah.
hometown, it was a small town also. There was an old hardware store, and I'd go in there. The guy was kind of colorful, and he's really old, but the building was ornate and it was big, your mind just kind of wanders back to the past and go, oh, I wonder what happened in there. Yeah, I wonder everything that went on. And
Mm-hmm.
then Diana was telling me stories about finding these little shovels inside the wall,
Uh-huh.
and a plate of chicken bones in another place. That could have happened recently, or it could have happened back then. So I took the shovels that Diane told me about, and that worked into a later part of the story. I don't know if you're there yet, so I won't tell
I
you
haven't gotten
that.
to the shovels yet. Yeah. But I will say that, talking to you here now, everything, I mean, it's amazing. And everything is
Mhm.
parallel with the story so far. And I just think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a very unique place. The the paranormal activity is in there. My first time ever
Mm-hmm.
doing that. I'm glad I got to do it because it was amazing to me, um, that there was that much activity in there, and it kind of confirmed what other people had told me and what I'd experienced a year or two before. Um, it was just so much fun. Do you know who Paul Young is?
No,
Paul Young wrote the book called The Shack.
I've heard of the
Anyway,
book, but yeah.
he wrote a few novels, and I asked him, how do you write a novel? I don't even know how. And he said, just get in the boat and let the current take you where it wants to. Don't worry about editing and just write it. And so
Right.
that's what I did. I was working at Kawasaki at the time, I believe, and I would go work on the assembly line and think about what was going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
And I would pull out, there's this fact. And then my editor would make sure it lined up with history and so on, because we moved the timeline a little bit. Um, but she would make sure it lined up with history and so on. But I would just,
Yeah.
every day I'd think of a new chapter and think what's going to happen next and how can I tie that into what I already know. And it was the funnest thing I've ever done. It's, if you don't care about selling books that much, writing is really
Yeah.
fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, where can people get copies of your book? I got mine off Amazon, I believe.
Yeah. They're basically everywhere. I mean, you can get them at walmart.com and target.com and Amazon and Barnes and Noble and whatever. They're on Amazon right now. They're on sale about like half price. So
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about my book. It's a black and white cover and so on. Maybe that makes it easier, but occasionally it goes on sale. It's been down as low as $5. So
Oh, wow.
depending on where you find it, it can be relatively cheap.
And it's a great story, and you do a great job of going from the present to the history of the hotel, back to
Uh-huh.
the present, back to the history of the hotel. Um,
Hmm.
was that difficult to write in that style, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, um, the easy part about the present was that was kind of mirroring my life in a
Yeah.
way, and it was mirroring what I was doing.
Hmm.
So there's kind of a shaman like character in all of my um, fiction books that I've written. A person that kind of shows up out of nowhere, and he's kind of the wise guide for characters in the book. So
Hmm.
there was one of those that mimics a guy in my life, someone that's helped me and
Hmm.
given me some good advice and helped me along in my path. But they're all, I also created a similar character that may or may not be a gangster and in the past.
Uh-huh.
And this guy turns out to be a guide for George and Elisa, and um, a little bit for some of the other characters. But um, yeah, a lot of fun. I forgot what question I was answering there, but
I think I forgot what I asked too. Um, so you had a hard time researching this. I mean, not a whole lot of people were talking about this hotel from the heyday.
Yes, there's first thing I did, I went in the grocery store that night, and I put this guy in the book because he's a guy I know here in town, but he also played the part of that character in the book where he's just like, I don't know anything. And then later on, I tried to follow up with him. He kind of gave me the sleeping dogs lie kind of line, like maybe we don't need to know what happened and something like that. And so I incorporated that. But even, the funeral director in town here, who supposedly his mother has some pictures, just, it's over a year and a half. I tried to pursue these pictures and so on, and just never got any real answers. I did finally catch up with the local historian after I wrote the book, and luckily he confirmed most of the stuff, after the fact. But it was just real hard to get any information. Even the newspaper guy in town, who's real cordial and real helpful and all of that, it just seems like there wasn't, for something that's been there, over 100 years and been a center point of the town, there wasn't many answers in town. And like I said, maybe I was 20 years late because everybody died off, but usually people.
So it's probably pretty easy to make it a fictional story then.
Yeah. And people in small towns, though, usually keep history. When you talk to someone in a small town, they talk about who lives where and who lived there before that. And well, of course, they're from that family and they come from there. And they always have a lot of history, even if they're not the recognized historian of the town. And usually there's books in the library and the community places that give the history. And there was some of that, but just a lot less than what I figured.
So we have a question about your the visions that you were having right when we started this the interview here. Have you experienced visions from the past at other investigations, or was it just
this is the only one I've only been here on this one twice. I would say I've had visions at other times in my life for different things, but I've only been on the 2 paranormal investigations at this hotel. And it was after I wrote the book. The vision I saw while I was in there was mostly, it was like events from the past, just a bunch of people coming and going and kind of snapshots and visions of that. And, it lasted maybe a minute or so. It was real quick. But what I describe in the book, fictionally, is pretty close to what happened to me in real life.
So you wrote the book, and then you had the flashbacks, right?
That flashback, no, that was before. That was when I was talking to Diana and researching and doing the.
When you were when in the hotel. Okay, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Part of it was I was trying to imagine what it was like, and it was almost like this gift came as this was the place to be. A lot of activity was here, and anyway, I'm not an expert at that. So,
did you go downstairs and see the tunnels?
We went down the basement. Diana was explaining to me where she had saw a person down there, and then it wasn't there. There's a lot of stuff down there, and the last time I went down there was somebody had gotten in there and trashed it, and it's harder to get to. I think, the people that were hosting it, I think they went down there recently. Diana was just kind of scared to go down there, and
I don't blame her.
And I pushed it one day, and we got to go down there. You can see on the walls that face the street that they've been cemented over and plastered over several times. We were really curious. The next building over, that basement, which is walled off now too.
Hmm.
Some people think there's a car buried down there. And I worked that into
A
the story
car?
later, but you haven't read that yet. Yeah. So they believe there's a car buried under that. They believe somehow, those tunnels worked where you could pull a car under there and get liquor or whatever and pull out.
Yeah,
But
for prohibition. Yeah,
that's part of the story. So,
yeah.
I mean, I have a story about that just because people tell that story. Um, that's part of my fictional story.
Okay,
Does that make
okay.
sense?
It makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Um, trying to think of where I completely lost it. Let's talk about some of your investigations there. The two times that you were there. The one time, we were with you, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was there any odd feelings that you had? Actually, before you answer that one, the first time you were there, was it at night, during the day?
It was afternoon, I would say, if I
Okay.
remember right. And I was in the
Did
front lobby, kind of where
Okay.
Carmen was sitting the other night.
Hmm. What all did you experience that first night?
So when we went, I didn't know what to expect. I brought a blanket and I had like way too much stuff, especially in the shape I'm in. Um, I brought a whole bunch of stuff, but then they got all the cameras set up and so on. We dealt with the raccoons that were in there, and then we set up in the big ballroom, which is where they
Hmm.
were seeing the thing the other night. The very first thing they showed you, it's like was hanging from the ceiling, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
In that room, the night we were there, they had the music box and some of that other stuff in the middle of that big ballroom. It's
Hmm.
on the main floor, and we played 1920s music and 1930s music, and it seemed like those boxes were just going crazy in
Yeah.
that ballroom. Um, it seemed more like children than like more mature older people. It seemed like people wanted to dance, and even when we went back in the back, there's a part that was probably a dance place
Hmm.
originally, and it has kind of half of the floor left in it, but it had a piano, and Carmen and them would play on that piano,
Yeah.
and the sensors and music box and stuff would respond to
Hmm.
that, even though there's no electricity in there right now, and all that stuff.
So,
But I'd
so for
say
those
that
of you that are listening today on this show, if you want to go back and watch that past live show, some really great stuff. I got actually yelled at by a spirit. That was fun. It was from 2 weeks ago. It's called "The Ghosts of Missouri" with special guest co-host Kristen Tweedy. Carmen and Lauren were down there. It was a fun night. So let's talk about some of the things that you might have experienced that night that we did that.
yeah,
You
that
you
night.
were you were
Can I
asking
tell
the
you?
questions, weren't you?
Can I
Go
tell
ahead.
you about the other thing
Oh, sure, sure.
of that first time? Uh, so I said my friend had talked about feeling like she got punched in the gut when she went upstairs into the rooms. The rooms all go from front to back, and there's about
Uh-huh.
30 of them on each side. It goes way back there. Um, about three-fourths of the way down is what she described, and it's right where the stairway goes down to the kitchen. There's a room there, and when we went there, I'm not sure about all the equipment, what it's called, and so on, but there's one that texts, kind of gives you a visual of what it thinks
Yeah.
they're saying and whatever.
Mhm.
Um, we were in that room, and first it told us to get away, you know, and like it had to go to sleep or something, and then it kept directing us and responding to what we say, and eventually we found, um, because it kept saying look up, and keep looking, and we found this box that had an old toy in it, old metal toy,
Yeah.
and it also had some documents. that were pretty old, and that were, and so I don't know what they did with those documents and so on, but that,
Mhm.
um, I guess, even more than the ballroom, that experience up in that upper room up there, um, was really, very real.
Yeah.
Just a presence you could feel.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So got another question here. What gave you the impression it was a child? It was children dancing.
it just seemed like whoever it was real frivolous, and uh, it wasn't just that they came over the music box and turned it on. It was like it just kept going. Um, Anytime we, um, I don't know how to explain that very well, I guess. But the second night when we were in there, we had the music box, and we said, "Can you turn that on?" And eventually, you saw on the camera that it just came over there and
Hmm.
like turned it on just for a second.
Hmm.
But it was like somebody was playing. That's why I say that. It seemed like someone was playing in there, and
Okay.
maybe there was more than one. But we didn't get as much like speech, but more
Hmm.
like interaction with those things. So
Besides the cold, that was it was a chilly night that night, I believe.
freezing, yeah.
Um, I mean, did you feel any energy, different kind of energy in that place? Any sorrow or
Yeah, it seemed more like, even though we kept hearing 13 and 12 and stuff like that, it seemed more like there was just one. It was Anthony or something like that,
yeah,
and it seemed like it was like a more adult presence
yeah,
that really didn't care for us to be in there.
yeah.
Um, every once in a while you hear something about a fire and so on, but yeah, it seemed like it is a real different experience the second time. Um,
Now, in your research for the book, um, and it did mention fire in from on the show. I remember hearing that. Was there any evidence of any kind of fire there that you found?
I never found that in the history. Of course, like I said, it was limited. What I could find, and most of it's stories.
Yeah,
Diana, the owner, I think, um, tells the story that either they mention fire a lot, or she's heard that in the stories, or it has happened. Um,
mhm,
and from what I understand, that's not uncommon in town, in Rockport. That any kind of paranormal stuff. It's always there's there was some kind of fire, but like I said, they're not really apt to give up their history around here.
yeah. I wonder why that is. I mean, is
Yeah,
it?
I don't know. And even like,
w-
George gave away, he paid everybody's property tax in town at one point, and they, that I carried that over into the book, where he did that in the
Yeah,
book also. But people were half the town was excited about that. The other half was upset that he paid them. You know, and sometimes in small towns, it's, we're working way too hard to protect our image or something like that, or something we imagine or fear.
yeah,
Um, and they might, where, where a lot of people reveled in prohibition and those times, and the roaring 20s and all that, when this was a boom town. It was
hmm,
exciting to be around.
hmm,
Probably the other half were unhappy about that, and I tried to kind of keep that sentiment in the book. But if if you're the quote unquote elite
hmm,
in a small town, sometimes you protect that even harder than if you were in a big
yeah,
city where there's a lot of other rich people. I don't know. I don't understand it, but it's part of small town life.
yeah. I've since last year January I had knee surgery, and ever since then I've started to read. Uh, I read a ton of books in this
Hmm.
past year and a few months. And I always try to put myself in the setting, whatever book I'm reading.
Mhm.
Most of them are more like modern day ones, but with yours, I think I try and put myself back in the 20s and try and get the feel of what it was like back then, and then going through the depression and maybe what these characters are going through.
Mm.
And I just found that that's one of the things I found really, really interesting about your book, that how you captured that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We worked really hard at it, with little or no facts, small amount of facts, and just did the best I could. And like I
Yeah.
said, my editors help a lot because they don't let you say things that don't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I have one more question here, another question here for you. And
Okay.
we still have plenty to go on this, have more things. Um, how hard was it going from being a pastor to investigating the paranormal? I only ask because a lot of religions are against it.
Yeah. I yeah, I appreciate that comment. And not knowing the audience very well, I don't want to offend anybody or anything like that. Um, I was in a branch of Christianity that was real,
Hmm.
you know, uh, uh, not not happy about things like that. But I think that was a part of it for me. That was a part of the experience for me, was I was trying to unravel some of my religious beliefs,
Hmm.
and part of that meant in my second book, it was when I went to Taiwan and had this great adventure and met a Buddhist in a tea shop. And what I learned about that was adventures can't be scripted, and you have to, if you really want to learn something, just like my whole experience with this hotel. If you really want to learn something, you have to go experience it.
Hmm.
You have to go investigate it yourself, put your hands on it, and be in it. So part of my deconstruction in Christianity was getting over my fear of things I didn't know about,
Hmm.
and and so for me, this is just a part of my journey. That as I'm investigating other faiths, I'm investigating whether I want to have faith, or whether I want to be in church, or whatever I want to do with it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's important
Hmm.
to go find out for yourself. I almost got kicked out of my church because I did yoga, you know, but I asked the people, have you ever done yoga? Have you ever looked
Yeah.
into it? Have you ever studied it at all?
No kidding.
Uh, so, yeah, I'd say it's only touchy if I worry about what people think about me. And, most of my friends that I was in religion with don't, um, they've kind of written me off already. So I didn't worry too much about what they thought. In a small town, you're always going to be judged. And so uh, uh, it was just part of the experience, part of the exploration for me. I
Hmm.
hope that answers her question. It's a, it does make it kind of a weird situation, but I'm exploring,
Well,
and this is
there's a
really
response.
interesting.
I completely understand that, Carl. Thank you for answering honestly. I too was given the third degree for doing what I do. That's yeah. Um,
Yeah, I don't know if you take, because you know it if you're afraid of that, if you think there's something wrong in that, um, think those spirits are evil or whatever, then I would think a
mhm,
religious person would want to reach out
mhm.
to that, and they shouldn't be afraid of that. If they believe in all powerful God or some whatever, um, it says not to be afraid. Don't be afraid. And
Yeah,
so, anyway, for whatever that's worth,
yeah. Um, now, are you going to be doing any more paranormal investigations
I
after this?
yeah, I would love to if people
Yeah.
invite me along. My wife doesn't want me to have another expensive hobby, but um,
Yeah, I
and
can
I
see where
can't get
that would be.
around. since
Yeah.
having my stroke, it's a little harder for me to get around, but I can
Yeah.
climb stairs as long as people are patient with me, and I'd love to do another one. It's exciting and interesting.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. And, you
Yeah.
know, especially what you could find through all this. Um, Here, Pam put this out there. Imagine investigative institutions on site are incredibly helpful in creative writing. Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just what I'm learning is just to be more open, and
Hmm.
you can't understand the universe with a closed mind. It's
Yeah.
impossible. And most of what we do, I don't want to get too much into that side of it, but most of what we do in religion is we protect what we already believe, and we defend what we already know. And as human beings, that's what we do a lot. It helps us feel secure and so on. But when you really start to learn, when you really start to grow, is when you explore and
Hmm.
you get out beyond your boundaries and meet people you haven't ever met before, or hang around people you haven't been with, or do something you haven't ever done, like go on an investigation.
Right.
Um, so I don't know how who you invite along or whatever, but um,
I
I
know
would
there's a lot of
recommend it.
people in chat who would love to take you out there.
Yeah, I I'd say I wasn't really afraid during the investigations, except the second night they left me alone a couple of times, and I think I was more afraid because we found out someone had been sleeping in there. I was more
Oh,
afraid of a live person being there,
yeah,
um, than whatever else was there.
yeah,
But it was exciting. All of it was exciting.
yeah. And I think if you have God on your side, you'll be fine going in these
Yeah, I
investigations.
yeah. Since my stroke, I've just kind of learned uh, not to be afraid. I'm
Yeah,
everything's a journey. Anytime we're going to grow or learn or experience something new, it's always a little scary.
yeah.
Um,
So that,
but to be brave. Now it's my turn.
yeah, yeah,
Go
exactly,
ahead.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to your you have a podcast out, correct?
Yeah.
The Desert Sanctuary.
Yeah. So
And I
we
do
just
have the
created
link.
as we
I do have the link for that in the show notes. The link was too long to put on one of the scrolls down here, but I do have the link in the show notes. So tell us a little bit about the podcast.
yeah, so the podcast is for, we call it a place for spiritual nomads, a home for spiritual nomads, because when you start to question your faith, or when you ask too many questions or whatever, it kind of pushes you out and you feel like you're wandering out into the desert.
Hmm.
So that's the premise behind it. There's also a place on a deal called Pathos where I can write my blogs and sort through things. But it became, just a community on Facebook that um, where people can come and ask questions and hang out, and it's usually for people that are either questioning their faith or have left their faith or kind of feel lonely outside of religion and so
Hmm.
on. Um, just a place. And then, but what happened was we started interviewing women, and one woman led to another, and we just started. We'd say, "Tell us your story," and people would tell us their story, and it um, would almost always be a story about sexual, physical, and religious abuse. And story after story, one person led to another, and we ended up hearing tons and tons of women's stories.
Hmm.
So last fall, we did a kind of an online conference and let a bunch of those women speak up and amplified their voice a little bit and just told about religious trauma and the things they've been through and how they got through it and how they're surviving now after
Mhm.
abuse. Um, we're not psychological experts, we're not clinicians or anything like that, but we do have a lot of friends
Mhm.
that we send people to and direct them to. So
And
it's just a home. Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
it's just a home for spiritual nomads.
Mhm.
People kind of outside
Yeah,
those circles.
yeah.
And a lot of them are exploring things like paranormal and tarot and all those different things. Um, and some of them resting on some of those things, some of them going on
Mhm.
to do whatever. But I know your show's not about religion, so I don't want to
Oh,
burden
no,
you
no, that's
too
fine.
much
That's
with that.
fine.
Yeah.
I mean, the chat right now, everybody's talking about going to church and God and everything. So it's everything kind of ties in. I mean, it doesn't always have to be about paranormal here.
Hmm.
And thank you, Krista, for putting that the link in the chat. And you said that you're not experts in the field or whatever of that, but maybe these people don't necessarily need experts. They just need someone to talk with and help them get it out.
Yeah. Here's what we found. This is the greatest thing I've learned from listening to all these stories
Hmm.
is there's a little element of religion sometimes that says don't trust yourself.
Hmm.
Um, don't really go inside because you're too wicked. Um, we'll tell you the answers. We'll lay it out for you. You just got to agree. We found that people really heal from things like trauma when they're able to go inside, and trauma is stored in our bodies. Um, and when we can go inside, when we can access that trauma and essentially just be with it and not judge it. And sometimes those things within us that are trying to resolve
Hmm.
fairly quickly.
Hmm.
That's been the greatest thing that we've learned is that we can be involved in healing from the things that we suffered through in our life.
Right.
Um, One of the main things: trust yourself, go inside, start to develop your own intuition, get in touch with your body because your body keeps the score. Is a famous book about that. Um, the body keeps track and it's trying to resolve past trauma. So uh, I think that's really helpful. I don't know what your original question was, but kind of, you know,
Oh,
it is
it was about
it
the
is
women.
helpful. Yeah,
It was about the women having an outlet, not necessarily to experts in their field that can help them, but having an
yeah,
outlet to get their story out and maybe have help you guys help them to heal.
yeah. They have to be um, what they always say. We say our stories are sacred. So tell us your story. Thank you for trusting us with your story. We promise not to judge you, um, and we're going to believe you. The story you
Hmm.
tell us, we're going to
Hmm.
believe. And those women say that's very important, that someone believes their story, that
Hmm.
someone hears them and doesn't judge them, uh, doesn't blame it on them, and victim blame and things like that, but just really to listen, to deeply listen.
Yeah.
And I know you have Catholic roots. Some Benedictine sisters
Hmm.
taught me that type of listening. They call it evocative listening, real deep listening, where you just really hear someone.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, those things are really, really helpful.
Yeah. Definitely. And you said that it's a non-judgmental area, your
Mhm.
podcast. And I mean that's the same here. That's the same with so many other podcasts that the stories that you
Yeah.
come on and tell, we believe you. I mean,
Hmm.
they happen to you. I mean,
Right. Right.
until it's, yeah, I mean, that's just what we do. There's no judgment. And that's so very true with this little community that we have here, that, it's a no judge, like that one gym, whatever. I can't remember the name of the gym, but it's a no judgment zone here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I think the world needs that, and
For sure.
yeah, definitely. Well, here's one. So Barton and Letitia have a podcast called Inhumanoids with Barton Nunnelly. So coming together here and with Barton and Letitia have been a real wonderful church-like community-like place. I'm so grateful.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
that's that.
we're hardwired. I think people are hardwired for connection, and we crave that as human beings. We want to connect with people, but we don't want to be judged, and we don't want to be excluded because we said the wrong thing or did the wrong thing, and we want someone to listen to us. We have that deep need for community, but sometimes the communities we create are toxic and
Mhm.
hurtful. And it's so great to have, even if it's a real small one, to just have a few friends you can gather with. I'm excited to learn more about you guys.
And toxic relationships, they just suck, and if there's no reason for it, you know.
Right, right.
I just don't understand why people do that. Take I'm gonna go off on a tangent. I don't really want
Yeah.
to go off on that tangent. I feel the blood boiling. I,
No.
I don't want.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
now I
sorry
lost
for
my
getting me
train of
off
thought.
on the train.
Oh no. That's fine. That's fine. Wow, that really caught me, and I could have go down a really bad rabbit hole there. But I mean, people just need to let other people have their fun and tell the truth and don't dispute it, and just have a good time and enjoy people, and not get so upset and bent out of shape about every single thing.
Yeah, indeed.
That was the abridged version of it.
Yeah, indeed. I agree.
So the book, it's an amazing book, and let's put that, I want to put that cover out there again. The Hotel, a novel, and like you said, it's on Amazon, Walmart.com, Target.com. And it's a very good read, guys. I
Basically
mean,
anywhere, yeah.
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 And now, is that an actual picture of the hotel?
It is. It's from the
From
30s or 40s, and I've seen that picture blown up, and the license plates are all from Nebraska, which is where this O'Shea guy thought, they were all coming to get booze there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks really similar to that today, except some of the infrastructure around it. The store to the left there is not there anymore. It's just kind of a courtyard. The awning's gone, but mostly it looks pretty much the same without the railing.
There's the.
Yeah.
How new is this
Yeah. So
picture?
the awnings,
Yeah, the awning's
that would
gone.
be
The sign.
70s maybe or 80s. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was the owner. Yeah, it might even be later than that because um, the previous owner had that arts and crafts kind of thing off to the side there. So, but that's not even there anymore. Yeah,
And there is a current owner there, correct? It's not an
there.
abandoned.
No.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and they're trying as best they can to preserve it.
Hmm.
And like I think they could open it back up. They could have people visit and do observations and all
Hmm.
that kind of stuff. It's a neat place. It
Yeah.
still has a chance.
Yeah. And I haven't really seen it before, and like you said, there hasn't been many pictures of it. And what I saw and what we all saw here was what Carmen and Lauren and what you were showing us on the videos 2 weeks ago. Um, Now, would you plan on investigating other locations than just that the Cedar Bluff Lodge?
Uh, I'm very much interested in it. Yeah, I haven't made any plans to do any of it yet.
Mhm.
We have a
Now,
lot of things going on the next few months, but yeah.
you said beforehand, before we came on the show, that you had always been into paranormal, or for a while you've been in the paranormal. What kind of got you into it?
I just think I've always been curious about everything I don't understand, and um, even when I was in my toxic religious group, I still wondered about all that, and I read books and things like that, but never got to experience anything. Didn't have time. Had a job and a church and all that stuff. It's just always been interesting to me. I like to know why. You know what I mean? Like, um, I've studied people and I've interacted with people, and I always wanted to understand how they work and why they do the things they do, and how do you fix it when it's broken and things like that. But I also wonder about the things I can't explain. You know, like you said, if somebody tells you a story about what they experienced in a hotel, you're like, I got to believe that might be true. And if it is, I want to understand that better.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll help me live my life better. Maybe it'll help me understand something else that's key or whatever. Um, but a lot of times we just kind of let our fears or what we think people might say keep us from doing the things that might enlighten us and help us in the journey we're living, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm curious if this happened to you as well. Ever since I've started doing this podcast, about a year now, I've noticed things have been happening to me a little bit here at my house and at kind of other places. Have you experienced stuff now that you've kind of experienced some paranormal activity at the hotel?
I would say my wife and I both experienced some of that, and it's we don't have explanations for everything and so on, but it's almost kind of an acceptance of yeah, something's happening. Nothing dramatic here. It's just you feel a presence, or when you're in certain rooms, it feels different and things like
Yeah.
that. We notice that and are real comfortable with it, and that there's nothing to be afraid of there. And so, yeah, I think we're a little more sensitive to it.
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to be dysfunctional where I can't walk down the road,
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that, but
or can't enjoy time in your own house worrying about, if there's a spirit hanging over your head
right,
or
right,
yeah,
right.
I was watching football one day and I heard a voice
Hmm.
like real close to me, and my wife actually heard it too, and we both kind of questioned each other like, was that you? Was that you? So we both heard it, and that's pretty
Mhm.
much since I started this. So I'm thinking that's has something to do with it. Maybe I'm opening up a little bit more.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's very interesting.
yeah. And I don't know the right way or the wrong way to approach it right now. So I'm just, it's one thing I'm curious about, and I hope to find out more
Yeah.
and experience more. I wrote a little article in the paper here, sensitive to small town, how they would take it and so on, about that first experience at the hotel um, with Carmen and her
Lauren.
guy
Lauren.
Lauren. Um, but it was just kind of that, this is my first experience. This is what I got. It's not my new religion, but uh, here's what I got out of it. And a lot of it was about opening up and just experiencing things instead of judging and so on.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. So is there going to be a sequel to the book? The
I don't
Hotel
know.
Part 2?
I wrote another novel called The Diner about a woman in a small town, but it's right now I'm trying to tie it to my current novel, but yeah, maybe. The JD character, I don't know if you remember him, the older guy, who may or may not be whatever. But anyway,
You'll have to read the book to figure
yeah,
that
you got to
out.
read the book. Um, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought.
Hotel Part 2, a sequel to the book.
Yeah. So, I mean, we really need to explain him a little better.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a mystery on purpose, and so maybe there's something like that that'll come after it. Maybe I go on a different investigation and have another story to tell. I don't know.
So, just thinking off the top of my head, I have a few thoughts for you, but
Okay.
one, a couple years down the road, maybe you're at the hotel a few more times and you kind of have more experiences and you kind of learn things. Maybe you write a book about a haunted hotel,
Yeah.
about those experiences.
Yeah. I I think I might. I need um, more to go on. A few more facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. The good thing
And
about fiction
maybe,
is you can say whatever you want.
yeah, and maybe next time you're there or next couple times you're there, a spirit can come through and give you your next brightest idea for a book. That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible, and um, that's what's so fun about writing fiction is you can't
Yeah.
really mess up. You know,
No, no.
my my friend wrote a book about distillation of spirits, like
Hmm.
alcohol spirits, but hers was actual history, and she just had to be so precise and references and all of that. I'm not really into academic kind of works, but writing fiction is the funnest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and honestly, the way you paralleled it to your life and your it was just it was awesome. It was really it's been a very good read, and I'm looking forward to finishing the book. Um, and then obviously everybody make sure you go over to Amazon or Walmart or Target or wherever and pick up your copy of The Hotel for sure. Here
Yeah, it's
is
on sale right now on Amazon.
yes. I don't think when I got it, I don't think it was on sale, but it's definitely worth it if it's regular price on sale. Get it. It's a good book. It's a good book.
The ladies at the drugstore love it, so that's all that
Oh, really?
matters.
That's right.
Yeah, they let me put it up in there and sell it from there. So it's
Are
also
you kind
available
of
here in Rock.
celebrity? Are you kind of a celebrity in your little town?
I don't think so. I kind of keep a low profile, but now everybody says, "Oh, you're the one that wrote the book about the hotel," and so yeah, a lot of people recognize me. I don't necessarily know them. We kind of
Yeah,
keep to ourselves most of the time.
that's kind of cool though. That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, Carl, I really appreciate you coming on here, taking the time on your Saturday night to chat with us. It's been fun. And again, let me see if I can pull up that. I got rid of it. The link to his podcast, The Desert Sanctuary. Here it is. Make sure you go over there and check that out. I haven't checked it out myself personally, to be honest with you, but I'm sure it's going to be a great listen. There it is. I should put it on there
Yeah,
again.
it's at iTunes and YouTube and all those places, so they'll be able to
Yeah,
find it just by looking for it.
yeah. Just do a search under the Desert Sanctuary, and I'm sure it'll come up. So, all right, Carl. Thanks again. You got me
Yeah,
choked up.
man.
Thanks again. Wow, hang
All
on a minute.
right, great. It's been
That
fun.
completely went
I'm
out.
glad you liked the book. I'm glad you enjoyed going through the process of reading it
Oh,
and
definitely, definitely.
all of that.
And
Thank you.
I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to finishing it up probably this week. I was hoping to have it finished before the interview, but I couldn't quite get it done.
yeah.
But I'll get it finished here in a day or so, a few days. So, all right, guys. Carl, again, thank you very much for coming on. Everybody in chat, I appreciate you guys coming on here. Make sure that you subscribe and ring that bell. Some other great shows coming on later on. Next week, I have Sir Brian Bowden coming on. It's going to be a fun show talking about UFOs, remote viewing, all kinds of fun stuff. So make sure you ring the bell so get notified on that one. So again, everybody, I appreciate you guys for coming on. Thank you all so much. I will see you next week. And also don't forget to set your clocks forward 1 hour tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose an hour of sleep, but it's worth it. Be lighter longer. All right,
Yeah.
everybody have a great night. Until we meet again, everybody stay safe and be kind, be good to everybody. Thanks again. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.